Good morning and welcome back to Oman Inspire channel. Today we are here with Wail AlHarrasi and we are going to talk about Omanis and coexisting and religious tolerance. Welcome Dr. Wail. Thank you for having us today.
Thank you very much. I'm very honored to be part of your channel, and this interview is an honor for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having us. And today the topic is about the Omanis and of course how do we coexist in this country, about the religious tolerance, and the reason why we're talking to you because we love your ideal and your idea about it. And so if you can give us a little bit of introduction about how do you define religious tolerance in general, and then you can speak about how is it defined in this country.
Thank you very much. This is a very important topic and it's very close to me. Before entering the topic, I would like to mention that I'm not a religious figure. I'm a normal citizen. I'm an engineer by background. I'm an entrepreneur. But the reason I emphasize on the message of religious tolerance and maybe people would perceive me as a specialist due to the appearance and my attire. This is an identity to me, and this is an issue that every single Muslim should attach themselves to and be concerned with. It is a matter of identity, a matter of faith. So regardless who you are in terms of your identity, if you're an engineer, if you are a businessman, if you are a doctor, I think talking about religion and about existence with other people, understanding and coexistence of ideas, this is what attracts people most, because this is what people would need. And I found out that through talking about these issues, I need to emphasize on the message that everyone should talk about this, everyone should exercise this. And it shows up, the thing that really shows up is our religious identity, because it is so dear to us and it is the source of our strength, our spiritual strength, mental strength, and our cohesiveness as individuals, as Muslims. Now, if we talk about tolerance, the term, I don't like it so much in the use that is being used in many times. I would rather use the word respect, understanding, acceptance to some extent. To me, the word tolerance, what is it, the thing that I would tolerate? Away from the new definitions of how people would try to define it, what is it that I would tolerate normally? I would tolerate pain. I would tolerate something that I do not normally want to associate with. Yeah? If I have an illness, I would tolerate that illness as an exhibition of strength. I would like to show and exhibit strength. Would I say I tolerate people? I wouldn't want to do that, because it means that those people are annoying to me and I just tolerate them. Would I use the word tolerance with diverse coexistence of people from different backgrounds, or gender tolerance? I wouldn't say that, because being a male, I'm not annoyed. It doesn't hurt me to be with a lady or to see women. As a Muslim, it doesn't hurt me, it doesn't annoy me to see non-Muslims. As an Arab, it does not annoy me, or I'm not irritated by being or befriending someone who is not an Arab. So I wouldn't use the word tolerance with human being. I would use understanding.
Yes.
Yeah, and for a smaller portion, I would use acceptance. Understanding is the basis of coexistence.
Of course.
Yeah, and this is part of our religion and part of just being human. Without understanding, we wouldn't be able to coexist peacefully. We wouldn't be able to live in harmony. So I would say, I would rather use always the term understanding rather than tolerance. For people who would use the word tolerance, I would be understanding of their use of the word, and I would look at the intention rather to my own definition of tolerance.
I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you think about our concept of religious acceptance? I would change the word.
Okay.
So us as Omanis, how are we built to appreciate these values?
To me, we need to look at it's two-dimensional. There are two aspects to this. It's to the ideas, our view of the ideas, our attitudes towards those ideas, and our attitudes and views towards the people who adapt those ideas. So let me give us an example. I am a Muslim, and I have a friend, or I know someone who is not a Muslim, be it a Christian, a Jew, a Hindu, or whatever, or an unbeliever altogether, yeah, an atheist who does not believe in religion altogether. I would tolerate the ideas. Why? Because most of the ideas I do not accept. Yeah, I would understand those ideas, and I would tolerate those ideas, meaning that, you know, I would not force anyone to change them. They have full right to adapt them, to believe in them, as I have the full right to adapt and believe in my own values and ideas and religious ideas. So this is when it comes to the ideas themselves. I would tolerate them. I would never accept them. Yeah? But what about the people? The Christian himself, or the Jews themselves, or the Hindus themselves? I would accept them as people, as humans, regardless of what they believe. I accept them to be neighbors. I would accept them to be friends, to be colleagues, to be co-workers, yeah? To live together towards a single goal in this life, regardless of the religious beliefs they hold for themselves. I would respect their choice. I would accept them. I would not accept the ideas. If I accept the ideas, then I would actually adopt those ideas. Yeah? So we need to look at it from in a two-dimensional way. The idea itself and the people. With the ideas, I do not accept them, but I would accept the people who adopt them. And I wouldn't mind, because those people and every single human being is a multifaceted gem. Yeah? It's like a diamond that has multi-facets to it. More facets mean more areas for them to shine. And I would look to those other facets that agree with me. There is the human side. There is the intellectual side. There are many areas where we could, find common grounds. Yeah. And this is, to me, the essence of religious acceptance, religious understanding, religious coexistence, and religious tolerance.
Yeah. So do you think that Omanis are all religious, both tolerant and accepting to others?
Yes.
Whether they live in the country, whether they're tourists, whatever. Do you think it is a habit that is inhibited in the Omanis? And what made them, or what kind of guidance did they get to inhibit this kind of values?
I'm probably not the right person to answer the question, because I'm an Omani myself, I wouldn't want to blow my own trumpet to say, okay, I'm an Omani and this is who we are. But to be honest, Omanis have had this reputation.
Yes.
Without me saying it, they've had the reputation of being very open,
Yes.
very accepting,
Yeah.
very kind, and very tolerant and understanding towards others.
Yes.
Now, why is that? We need to look historically first of what is Oman and who are Omanis. Oman is a country that is deeply rooted in history.
Yes.
We are more than 3,000 years old nation and culture.
Yes.
Oman as a place is become like a, I wouldn't say a melting pot for different cultures, but it's like a salad bowl of different colors and flavors all come all together. And Oman has been like that for many years because of its geographical location. It's strategically located, so people from Asia, from Europe, from Arabia met in this area.
Yes.
And it's a mix of cultures, it's a mix of ideologies that made Oman what it is today. And I think this has been instilled into every single Omani. I wouldn't say all Omanis are like this, but I would say that it is a feature in the majority of Omanis, that they are very kind, understanding, tolerating, and accepting of people with different views, different religious backgrounds and cultures. And that's why we've seen today that people from different nationalities would prefer to work in Oman rather than work in other countries, despite the pay might not be the same. But they say money isn't everything. Our peace and tranquility that we get here,
Yes.
and the kindness we see is worth much more than the delta money that we would have got in other countries. So Omanis have this deeply rooted history that helped shape their nature as human being. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, when he sent a messenger to Oman to call people to Islam, normally he would send a messenger to present them with the idea of Islam. And normally whoever has a little bit of authority would try and fight it. Even tribal leaders would try and fight it. Oman was a kingdom at that time, with two brothers leading as kings. A sovereign country in Arabia, where it was all had different leaders with loyalties to different external countries, either the Byzantine Empire or the Persian Empire at the time. But Oman was independent, sovereign country with its own two kings. As soon as they received the message from the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, they were very accepting of the idea, very receptive of the idea of a new religion and to obey to a new authority. And without hesitation, they've asked the right questions, the answers were acceptable to them, and they abided by the new doctrine that is completely different to their own doctrine. And the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was so happy with that it was the only nation that accepted this new religion without a fight, despite its might, despite its strength and having kings, but it decided we would do this. So you could see the acceptance and tolerance does not come out of weakness, it comes out of strength. And that's why Omanis until today, they feel that it is part of their strength and the ability to control their emotions, the engagement of their intellect allows them to be receptive of others. And it is because it shows that strength. I'm strong, and that's why I would accept you. I would have no fear that I would be impacted negatively in any way by having you. Those who do not accept others, they do so out of weakness. Yeah? And that's what differentiates Omanis.
Yes. Speaking of weaknesses and strength, there's another point of acceptance we have here, other than just the religion itself. We have the doctrines, of course, acceptance. How would you describe that? How would you talk about it? How do we coexist together? Of course, it's also regarding our reputation, and it's about who we are and how we grew up. But it is something worth talking about because, like how they say, it is something that makes us, I think, special, or it highlights about the Omanis.
After Islam, Oman has been characterized by its Islamic identity more than anything else.
Yes.
It is what shaped the modern history of Oman.
Yeah.
It is what really energized its growth as a nation, and from a social point of view, cultural point of view, from a military aspect as well, and from a political aspect, Oman has expanded so much that it was very distinct in history after Islam.
Yeah.
Despite that the Islamic empire had a very diverse school of thoughts.
Yes.
And sometimes those school of thoughts entered into so many conflicts that we see it very evidently even today.
Yes.
And we live that today.
Yeah.
Oman has managed to live away from all of that.
Yes.
And what made Oman so different is that from day one, from the initial spark of dividing the Islamic empire, they took a very strong and solid stance towards that, which then became to be known as the Ibadi school of thought. And until today, Oman is governed by the Ibadi school of thought, which is very accepting, open to diversity, and within the school of thought, Ibadi school of thought, we are accepting to any school of thought within the Islamic schools, Sunni, Shiite, and the others. In Oman, you have all of these school of thoughts living together in harmony under the Ibadi school of thought without any prejudice. There is no systematic prejudice. There is no prejudice from those who have knowledge. Any prejudice would come from those who lack any knowledge, and those are very few. Yeah? But those whose ideas and thoughts and beliefs actually count, you wouldn't see. And Oman is a unique example of how all school of thoughts live together socially. The act of solidarity between them is regardless of those school of thoughts. Yeah? Because there is freedom of practice of any idea that you have amongst the Islamic school of thoughts. And I would never, and I have never seen anyone in Oman ask anyone else, from which school of thought do you come from? Are you Ibadi, Sunni or Shi'i? This type of question is non-existent. And to people who outside this environment, the beautiful environment of Oman, this is so strange. I lived in the UK for about 12 years, yeah, plus and minus. And you'd see there that there are mosques and places of worship where this is a Sunni, this is a Shia, this is a Pakistani, this mosque, this is an Indian mosque, this is a Yemeni mosque. In Oman, we don't have that. Yeah,
everyone can pray in the same.
Anyone
mosque.
can pray anywhere.
In any way, in hand position, it can be in anywhere you like.
Because this
next
is
to any person.
Absolutely, because this is, we are all at the end of the day Muslims, and this is the core value that we all come together and believe in. وَأَنَّ الْمَسَاجِدَ لِلَّهِ فَلَا تَدْعُوا مَعَ اللَّهِ أَحَدًا. A verse in the Quran that is telling us that all mosques are the houses of Allah. So do not call any other names by the name but the name of Allah in these. So if you are Muslim, regardless of what sect you are in, what school of thought you're in, then you can go and pray in that. And this is what we are practicing. So we're practicing the core belief of the Quran. And if we follow all of that strictly, then we would have many examples of Oman all over the world.
How do you think the country or the people deal with extremism, violence, and anything that can be bad for the coexisting of other Omanis?
Well, Omani is very soft in nature, very accepting in nature. They've accepted Islam without a fight, and normally you would have them accepting situations where they don't even favor, but they would accept just to avoid any conflict. Omanis are not known for their loudness, for their anger, for conflicts or fights. So when it comes to extremism and the stance that the people would take, they immediately reject. The vast majority of Omanis, I would say over 97% of Omanis would reject violence. Over 99% they would reject violence and extremism. Not because of any pressure from governments, but it's from within. Socially unacceptable. Within the smallest cell of society, the families are, they detest violence. We detest extremism. And every single cell within the society, every single family do not accept that, and they detest that. And we do not condone violence, so we don't accept it. This idea grows all the way to organizations, public sector, private sector. So we are all united when it comes to what we have to say about extremism. What is interesting is that with any example of extremism that might arise, not in acts, not by action, but only in terms of expression of acceptance of those ideas, how does the government and the security services would deal with it? And this is what I think is so unique, I believe. This is so unique to Oman. That the government agrees that the nature of Omani is not to accept those ideas. So any acceptance of those ideas by certain individuals means that there is an issue that needs to be rectified. There is an external influence that needs to be rectified. So rather than punish, the government is investing so much money, efforts to bring together psychologists, religious preachers, historians, people of influence, intellects, to sit down with those individuals,
and ask them.
not only ask them, but to provide them advice, mentoring, coaching, until they understand what is right and what is wrong, before any punishment takes place. They show them that the leniency because we take people with good intention. And this is key in understanding and coexistence. You never had negative concepts or conceptions or ideas about the other people. You take them positively, you accept them positively until they show you otherwise or they prove otherwise. And the government deals with its people in this manner. That those youth who accepted, for example, ISIS, let's say for example, should have been any individuals who accepted ISIS for any reason, they would be advised, they would be coached, mentored, and then they would be told, next time there would be consequences. So you know exactly what are the consequences. So this leniency in the manner where Omanis deal with each other and with ideologies and ideas is not only amongst individuals within the society, but it is a methodology used by the government as well. And we are so proud to have this, that I would think is unique to Oman. I hope that other societies' government would use this as well, but this is something that we know for certain that is practiced here in Oman.
Yes. So, I guess they go by the we're going to believe that everyone has good intentions, and we're going to doubt that they want to be against anyone or anything.
Yes.
And we will try to understand why do they have that train of thought, and why do they even question something like that. And they would believe that maybe guidance would be the right path rather than punishing the person. Because if you want to get someone on your side, you'll show them that we're soft and you should be on our side, and then the decision is yours. But everyone would want to, you know what they say, I guess it's the person always have their emotion moved by softness and by kindness. So it is important to realize the values of kindness, and that is something we are, by nature, we're born with, alhamdulillah. And as well as I wanted to ask you regarding, I had a few articles read about, tourism and people coming to Oman. MashaAllah, it's been a great country to visit. And other than the people who who live here, I myself have a lot of friends, Lebanese and Iranians and Indians and British. And I like to ask them, of course, about coexisting. And I did yesterday. And I had few thoughts, and I wanted to share them with you, and you tell me your... So the best comment I got so far is from an article I read about a solo woman traveler. I will not mention her name because I couldn't reach to her, so I don't want to mention her name. And she said that when she came to Oman as a solo traveler, she's the type that travels solo everywhere she goes. And she said the safest country I've been to so far is Oman. And the reason she says that is because she had an incident with her motorcycle. And she was in the middle of nowhere. And her motorcycle broke down. And she said a single car passed by. It was the first car that passed by, stopped. Even though the person had a difficulty engaging with her because of the language. But he totally understood what was wrong with the bike. He didn't even engage with her for so long. He just understood that something is wrong with the bike. And he put it into his car and told her, just get into the car. And she, at that point, she was like, I had no choice but to trust him. So he took me to the closest gas station, which had a repair shop. He managed to communicate with them to check it and to fix it. And then I think he paid for it. And then he told me, here you go, here's your bike and have a safe trip. And if she needed to be dropped somewhere else. Yeah. And this was her comment. I was surprised he did not ask for my number. He did not ask if I would want to go out with him. And he did not ask if I want to have a meal with him. And for her, it was a shock. She just said, can I at least pay you? And he said no and walked away. So that was my favorite story. And it made me feel very happy because I realized that the Omanis, it's not just the fact that they're kind or they're nice, they are helpful and they don't want anything in return. So even in coexisting, when we have other people who are not the same religion or the same school of thought as us, as long as we are in the same country and we realize the value of this country, our love towards this country is the same, and we are here to coexist, that means we need to help each other to live. So it's not just I accept you, but you live on your corner and I live in my corner. So I wanted to share this story with you because it made me so happy. And as well as in regards of the traveler, she mentioned the word safe. She said that Oman is a safe country. So do you think that coexisting and us accepting each other in the society is a major factor of our country's safety and our peaceful living?
True. As human beings, regardless where you come from,
yes,
you need to have your own set of values. Our set of values as Omanis are deeply rooted, as we said initially. We are not a new nation. We have been honed throughout time, culture upon culture, nation upon nation that we have mixed with. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us that we've managed to take the best of every experience. The story that you mentioned of the traveler, the lone traveler who came to Oman, the act of kindness that she has seen is not a one-off. Yeah? I'm not surprised. As a Omani, I'm not surprised at all. To me, you haven't said anything that would, unusual, or you would surprise me with anything. Yes. Why? Because this is the way we have been seeing our people interact, our parents, our neighbors. This is the way we have been raised. Yeah? And I understand that to many people might think that if someone approaches them without them asking, or providing unsolicited advice or help, is an intrusion to their privacy.
Correct.
Yeah?
Yeah.
In Oman, that is not.
Yes.
But that is not in a very negative, not in a negative manner at all. It's a very positive.
Yeah.
In Oman, for example, people would come and ask you about very private things about your how are you doing? How is your family? How is your health? So they will ask you about your health, about your family, your parents. And to people outside this culture, they don't understand that. But this is a very deeply rooted, value amongst our values. For many years, for millennia, people didn't have ways to communicate, easy way of communication and receiving news. And how would they receive news of distant areas? Is that as soon as you meet someone, whether you know them or not, you'll ask them about news. From the place you're coming from, what is the news? How are you doing? How are the people there doing? What's happening over there?
Correct.
Despite that, now we are a very modern society.
Yes.
And we have WhatsApp.
Yeah.
And we have all means of communication and media.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't lost that touch. And the first thing Omanis would ask you, إيش الأخبار? إيش العلوم? What's up? What's happening? How are you? How is your family? Regardless whether I know you or not, maybe this is the first time ever I meet you, I will ask you about your family. Because this is a way of me showing you that I care about the most important things in your life, because this is what would make you happy, that they're all fine, and it would make me happy regardless whether I know you or not. Yeah? The first thing I would offer you is a meal. In those days, a traveler wouldn't find a meal easily. So the first thing you would offer them is food and drink, something that would put them at ease and comfort. And you would do that for 3 days.
Yes.
Before you ask them, what else do you need? This tradition has continued until today in Oman, where, not for 3 days, but at least they would offer complete strangers food. You go to a mosque to pray. Let's say if you go camping somewhere,
Yes.
and you pass by a mosque, or you pass by a Bedouin, they would tell you, you're having lunch with me today. You're having dinner with us today. Why is that? People from outside Oman might not even understand this, but this is who we are. We don't offer you something because we know you. Just because you are human, you already have the majority in common with us.
Correct.
In our humanity. And this is our value.
Yeah.
We look at you as a human, and regardless whether you're Muslim or not, Arab or not, we believe as Muslims, and this is one of our values, core values as Muslims, as told in the Quran, that we as humans, we have been entrusted by God to build earth,
Yes.
to nurture, to prosper,
Yes.
as humans, not as a race, not as a nation, not as a religious group, but as humans, we need to work together for the prosperity of earth. Having that in mind, whoever I see, I would work with, unless it's an enemy that comes with bad intention for destruction. Then that I don't collaborate, I don't associate, because our core values are so different. I'm here to build, they're here to destruct. And that's why I would not tolerate, I would not respect, nor would I understand. Yeah? So this is why we act with people based on the common things that we have. And what better than being a human?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you think that these are the values that make us a safe country and a peaceful one?
Absolutely. You would have peace and understanding if you have those values, because there are 3 unsaid values that are translated in actions. 3 things, core things that need to be done for people to live in peace. One is knowledge. Second is, we say, al-ma'rifa, knowledge. At-ta'aruf, to get to know each other, knowing each other. At-ta'aruf, al-i'tiraf. So al-ma'rifa, knowledge. At-ta'aruf, introducing each other and understanding each other. Wal-i'tiraf, acceptance. You need to accept that you don't have the right to say, I am correct in everything. Whenever someone points out that you have something wrong within you, regardless who they are, you need to accept. I'tiraf, accept it. Yeah? And you need to accept that no matter how much wrongs someone does, they have the potential to do right as well. Yeah? So, ma'rifa, ta'aruf, i'tiraf, knowledge, acceptance, and introduction to each other. So I know you more, understand you more. These are the things that makes us live in harmony and in peace. Without these, we can't live in peace. And I think these are the ingredients here in Oman, why we are enjoying this peace. One more thing, it hasn't been only something that has been preached to us. This is something that has been practiced by the leadership. It has been practiced by the leadership for many years before. There are stories of acceptance and leniency and mercy and compassion that led to a harmonious atmosphere in Oman previously. And we had in the modern history as well, when the late Sultan Qaboos took power, there was a war that broke out in the south. He inherited a conflict in the south of Oman. Yes, there was an armed conflict that was eventually ended, but what counts is what happened after that ended. The Communist Party that came and the communist ideology that came in and crept into Omanis, some of the Omanis who took those ideologies. After the conflict has ended and he gained full control of the nation, what did he do with the remaining people who had those ideologies and fought in those conflicts? He showed them leniency. He accepted them. He showed them mercy and compassion. Not only that, he made them very close to him, and he used their intellect. And because of those manners that he showed in terms of compassion he showed towards them, they became some of the strongest allies. Wow. Yeah? And this is something that we grew as little Omanis who have been told these stories by the people themselves who lived those days. And we take an oath to do that as long as we live, and to teach that to our children for as long as we live.
Yes, yeah, that's an amazing value. And like you said, we are influenced by our leaders, our parents, our grandparents, the closest people to us. Sometimes we don't even understand why it is done, but we do it because it feels right. It feels like this is how we grew up.
Yeah.
And thank you, Dr. Wail. This has been an amazing conversation, even for me.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's always an honor. It's a very deep topic. Yes. And I hope that you've chosen the right person. I hope that I've given it some sort of justice, talking about Omanis, yes, and talking about the values that we have. But these are very dear things to me. So thank you very,
Yes.
very much for giving me the opportunity.
And thank you for your time. This has been an amazing topic. It's a sensitive one, but also it's a great way to disclose who we are as Omanis and as humans. And it's a great way for us to feel like we need to be more open into the world and to be more accepting. And it's amazing because it's also, we carry our values where we go. So even if we do leave the country and we go somewhere else, like you lived in England for 12 years. So even if, when you went to England, how did you adapt? Of course, you took your morals and your values and your, you know, and you went there and you lived with them. And let me ask you, so when you lived there and you got to know people, how did they see you as a human or as a Omani, and how did they describe you? How did they befriend you?
I think I went there in the late 90s, and there were many Omanis who went to the UK before.
Yes.
Their reputation helped me be accepted more within that society.
So the reputation was already there.
The reputation was there. Are you Omani? Oh, we love Omanis. And it helped me be at ease in a country that is foreign to me.
Yes.
In many ways. Yeah, it helped me be accepted as well. Why? Because of the legacy left by people, Omanis, who went there before, which meant that I had great responsibility to continue that legacy and leave something behind to strengthen that view.
That's a very good point.
Yeah. So every Omani that goes out is an ambassador of Oman.
Correct.
You need to show them the true face of Omanis.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yes.
and be careful. And that's a beautiful thing, you know, to have that. I wouldn't say it's a burden at all, but it was an honor to do that. Especially when you hear people talking positively about Oman, it's a beautiful thing. Alhamdulillah.
That's a very good aspect.
Because you know, when they say it in their country, you know that they are not just being nice.
Yes, correct.
When they say it here as a tourist, you might say, okay, he's being nice.
Here,
They're being nice. Yeah, maybe. But when they say it there, and you know that they are sincere about that. Yeah, Alhamdulillah.
Especially when they haven't been to the country, but they have met people who
True.
came to theirs and they still brought their values with them, and they're still, you know, they have that, how can I say it? They come with a very, very strong concept of coexisting. They come in peace. You
Yes.
know? They come in peace, and they come and they know that we're gonna stay here and we're gonna coexist and we're gonna bring our peace with us and mingle with everybody and befriend everybody and have lunch with everybody and come back.
That's true. And I remember once during my first year in the UK, when I did my A-levels, in one summer, I was wearing my dishdasha outside Sainsbury's at the cash machine, and I heard someone behind me saying me, "You are the most comfortable person here in Loughborough." It was in Loughborough. So you're the most comfortable person in Loughborough with that dishdasha that you are wearing. So he said the word dishdasha.
Okay.
And I turned back, he said, "You know what this is?" Of course. How would I not know about Omanis, Oman and the dishdasha? Yeah? So he said, in this heat, I would love to wear a dishdasha rather than jeans. Yeah? So it was a beautiful moment for me, that people knew us and were comfortable to approach us without thinking, what would he say? So meaning that Omanis are approachable wherever they go. Yeah? Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Dr. Wail. And it was nice to meet you finally.
Shukran.
And
Likewise.
Congratulations on your new office.
Thank you.
And all the best, inshallah, with your new projects.
Ameen.
And we hope that we get to meet you again,
Inshallah,
for even
inshallah.
another topics and another interviews.
My advice to all Omanis, especially the youth, is never lose touch with your values. Never lose touch with your heritage. Those who turn their backs to their history, to their values, have no future. You need to attach yourself to the great values you have, to the great history and the great legacies left behind by great people. And I advise youth to keep on holding to those legacies and leave a better legacy. Take it on, move it forward, pay it forward, and leave a better legacy for the people who would come after you. So to have a bright future, you need to have values, and we have the best values that really made us strong as a nation, which is Islam. We need to show that Islam is the source of the best values. And through Islam and through moderation, we can show the world, especially today where there is so much conflict, religious conflict, political conflict, that we as Omanis, we can be ambassadors of understanding, compassion, and religious understanding and coexistence.
Of course, that's a very great advice.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you, Dr.
Shukran.
Wail.